This episode of Policing Matters is sponsored by Peregrine. Learn more about how you can transform your data into impact at www.peregrine.io. Hey, you're listening to Policing Matters on policeone.com. I'm your host, Jim Dudley. Hey, maybe you're watching us on the YouTube channel. And if not, I encourage you to do one or the other. If you're watching this, check us out. We've got 500 episodes. Put on your ear pods, jump on your treadmill or your Peloton or whatever you're doing, and check out the episodes. We've got some great ones. Well, we have a good one today, a really good one, and it's talking about harnessing the power of the IoT, the integration of technology, with Lieutenant Sean Riley. And he's the commander of the Real-Time Crime Intelligence Center in Glendale, in Southern California. And we're talking about how integrating IoT devices into the city infrastructure has transformed public safety. He'll share his experiences, challenges faced during implementation, and the tangible benefits seen in their community. Joining us today is Lieutenant Sean Riley, the commander of the Real-Time Crime Intelligence Center. Welcome, Lieutenant Sean Riley.
Hi, Jim. How are you?
Good. So I'm looking at Peregrine. I know they are your primary integrator and source of your crime center. The Peregrine website shows some amazing results with the help of technology. For example, Albuquerque, New Mexico, Albuquerque police cite a 40% drop in homicides. Atlanta cites a 21% decrease in violent crime, among other successes. What's been the biggest impact so far in Glendale?
So we're a pretty new center. We just stood up kind of the end of 2024, had our soft opening, and then kind of a ribbon cutting into November. And so we've kind of really started to hit our stride now as of January into the new year. And I would say the biggest impact so far, especially with Peregrine and their ability to do the things that they've done, is integrate all of our different disparate data sources, is allowing us to really get that information out real time to the first responders, specifically our officers on the street that are responding to calls, and providing them with information that previously would take us a long time to get, going through different systems, trying to pull up different databases. Now it's all at the touch of one button. Essentially will give us everything we need to know about people, cars, plates, and allows us to really get that information out again quickly so it can make an impact for the first responders.
Yeah, so give us an idea. So, 70% of law enforcement agencies around the country are less than 100 people. I think they're less than 50. Glendale, I think it's 200,000 or so population, mixed residential, some businesses. What else am I missing?
Yeah, Glendale is really, we're right in the center of everything down here in Southern California in Los Angeles County. We're surrounded by LAPD on a couple sides, the sheriff's on one side, Pasadena, Burbank PD. Our population it hovers around a nighttime population about 200,000. But our daytime population swells to almost 700,000. I mean, it's a
Wow.
large metropolitan city. We're bordered by a number of major freeways, the 5, 210, the 134, the 2 freeway. A lot of work with our regional partners and transient crime coming in and out of the city. So that's kind of a snapshot of what Glendale looks like. We also have some really large retail centers. So we have one of the largest malls in the country, the Glendale Galleria, along with the Americana brand. And those places draw in about 100 million visitors annually. So this place really is a kind of a busy metropolitan area. We are about 10 miles from downtown Los Angeles, which, depending on traffic, can take you about 30 minutes or longer, but very close geographically to all those things. And then our police department specifically, we're about 250 sworn police officers right now. We just got approved. The chief got a new plan approved to grow our department to 300 sworn police officers. And the first phase is being implemented and already approved for another 23 police officers. So we're fully staffed right now at right about 250. And so hopefully our PSB lieutenant assures us that by the end of the year, even with attrition, we should be pretty close to adding those 23 additional positions on to be kind of in the range of 270 sworn police officers.
Wow, nice.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a tough time for recruiting. Good luck to you. I'll send you a copy of my book.
thank you. All right, sounds great.
So you've got all the problems of a major city. You've got spillover from other, major metropolitan centers in Los Angeles there. So you got pretty much all the problems that small or large city would have: auto theft, auto boost, retail theft, organized retail theft, robberies, all the, FBI, UCR, and neighbors crimes that you could think of. So, what kind of issues were there that got you pushed towards developing a real-time crime center? And how'd you go about choosing some package to coordinate it all?
Yeah, so our chief came from another agency in Southern California fairly recently. I think he's getting close to 3 years here now with the city of Glendale. And when he initially arrived, Chief Manny Sid, he had a vision of using and utilizing technology and really leveraging technology because at the time we were in a pretty significant staffing hole. So fielding the right resources became a bigger challenge. And we saw more often than not our police officers going to call, not having time for any proactive policing. So this was a result of that conversation, started about how can we leverage technology, be more efficient in how we utilize and allocate our resources, and just be better at solving crime. And then again, helping our investigators on the back end with, the tons of video evidence that they're going through, especially on some of these larger investigations. So that was kind of the kind of where it started. So he put together a team led by Captain Robert William, myself, and Lieutenant Manny Fernandez, and we went to work and started figuring out what this real-time intelligence centers and crime centers around the country look like. We joined the National Real-Time Crime Center Association, which was a huge help. Went out to their conference last August, made a lot of connections. So we kind of figured out what works for us, and then went to work starting to build it and identifying the right vendor to build it for us.
Yeah, so I mean, there's so much out there. Automated license plate readers, everybody's got one.
Yeah.
ALPRs. You've got your officers' body-worn cameras. There's other detection devices, Shot Spotter. I think it's called Sound Thinking now, and Zero Eyes that identifies firearms in public on public video sites. What did you choose, and what do you use in most, and how did you coordinate all of those things together?
Yeah, so we started taking our existing softwares and our existing LPR cameras that are out there. We had never really worked with our public works department previous to this, and found out they had a decent camera infrastructure network, and a lot of real high quality pan tilt zoom cameras, in addition to intersection cameras that we can use for investigations and things. So we kind of started there, and then we built. We bought some other PTZ cameras that are in the process of being put up, and then added some license plate reader cameras to our already existing infrastructure network. So gosh, from now we're about, I'd say, over 100 strategically placed LPR cameras over our 30 square miles. So it's pretty good. And then we have hundreds of other cameras, PTZs, and then traffic intersection cameras that we're leveraging. Moving forward into Q1, one of our big pushes is going to be really like leveraging that public-private partnership with some of our business owners and landowners here to utilize those camera networks, kind of fill in the holes. And then, we have a lot of Axon technology, like you had mentioned. We have Axon body-worn cameras, in-car video, drones, static drones. We have our own helicopter at the city of Glendale, which we're very fortunate to have a helicopter program. So in addition to that, we use the downlink from the helicopter, so we stream that into the real-time intelligence center. And then we have some incident-specific drones that we use that we deploy out during incidents. So we've taken all of that and utilized that in the center, along with like one of our big strategic partners, as you mentioned before, is Peregrine. Again, that is kind of almost the backbone now of our center. them and their ability to bring in all these disparate systems where we had all this data just in all these different places that was really hard to access. A CAD RMS system that's just not user friendly, things like that. They were able to take that data, clean it, and then allow us to, like, literally my real-time intelligence center operators they can click on one button and bring up, premise history, 30, 60, 90 days, who's related to the address, all the body worn camera evidence that's ever been taken in this geographic location, criminal history, just you name it. And they're able to feed that to the officers almost immediately. Hey, you're going to this address and we have had these problems in the last 30 days, and these are the people that you're most likely to contact, things like that that are just really impressive. And then the other thing I'd like to touch on, Peregrine, is a lot of our strategic regional partners here, Pasadena PD, Santa Monica PD, some of these other police departments, Beverly Hills, and then, the big dogs in the neighborhood, LAPD, are all moving to Peregrine. I know LAPD is already, they're in the works. I think they're like 4 months into integrating Peregrine. The other ones that I mentioned are working on getting Peregrine. And there's a bigger conversation about regionally how we're all going to share data through Peregrine. Because again, crime is transient through our cities. And it really is going to help like connect dots and then allow our real-time intelligence centers to talk and strategize and really, make an impact on crime, I think.
Yeah, for sure. And back in the day, right here in San Francisco, we had Oakland across the bay, and we had crime patterns and trends and gangs back and forth over this 7 Mile bridge. And a lot of times we didn't know about them unless, some inspector or cop read about it in a paper or saw it on a news clip or called over to Oakland to find out if we were sharing the same, bad guys. And these systems make that so much easier. Um, yeah, it's great to see the coordination, and we are really moving into the future. It's kind of life imitating art where, 10, 15 years ago, we had movies that were showing all these things where a cop pulls up and knows that there were X amount of arrests before, that there was a resistor, that they had a gun, and all this other stuff. Well, that's happening now. It's great to see.
Yeah, I'll give you a quick story on that. We had one of our officers who was somebody who was a little resistant to the change of the real-time intelligence center and kind of maybe the oversight and the more cameras and more people watching them. And he was on a call and struggling with it was a domestic violence situation, and one party was there, one party wasn't there, and the party that was there, who turned out to be the victim, was very reluctant to share even her name, his name, all these things. And so our real-time intelligence center operator messaged him and said, "Hey, can I tap into your body worn camera for a minute?" So he said, "Yeah." So he tapped into the camera, and then used Peregrine, pulled up all the data on that location, figured out who the residents were within minutes, and was like, told the officer, "Oh, you're talking to this female," gives her name. Her significant other is this person, and this is his name. And so then the officer was like, within minutes, was like, "Well, hey, I know you are this person, and I know this guy lives here." And she was just befuddled. And he was able to work through this problem just, light speed compared to where he would have been without the real-time intelligence center and being able to stream video back and be able to quickly look at match photos with who the person our real-time intelligence center operators are looking at on the video right then. So really amazing how technology is changing the way we're doing business.
Yeah, so great. I mean, that really puts the real time in the real time intelligence centers. And if you have a crime like that and you're able to pull up the suspect's history, you could put out a bolo with the picture of the suspect to any agent, any radio car in the area. So great. Okay, so how did you integrate everything? We know you've got the one system overseeing all of your apps. Do you have one sworn supervisor, non-sworn in the intelligence center? Do you have cops and civilian analysts, a mixture? How's it work?
Yeah, so we'll start with like kind of how we put the center together, because I think that's key for people who are looking to build a real-time intelligence center. We looked at a number of different video integrators, and we ended up landing with a company called Constant Technologies, who has been just a fabulous partner. They are a family-owned company, and when I say that, you would think small, but they're really not small. They're a large company, but you get that white glove like service where they come out and they go take you everywhere from the initial design consultation all the way through the build. They build the equipment, the furniture, they put the video wall up, they coordinate with your public works folks, your IT folks, so that everyone's on schedule. So that was huge for us. It took a huge amount of burden and work off myself and the rest of the folks here at PD to have someone come in and kind of walk us through this. So they came in and designed just an absolutely beautiful room. We have a giant video wall. We have 6 consoles that raise and lower. We have another room that adjoins there that's kind of a supervisor's room with a small conference room in it. And so that was kind of like the bones of the room. And then as we started working on like, okay, how are we going to prioritize calls and what do things look like in there? Generally, my real-time intelligence officers in there, they prioritize, obviously officer safety first, crimes in progress, followed by, virtual policing and some of the investigative work on the side. And kind of how we break it down here is we have 4 areas of focus in that room. 1, real-time intelligence. 2, virtual proactive policing. 3, we have our investigative support. And then 4, we do threat monitoring and then community event support. So that's kind of how we have broken down kind of the workload in there. And then, yeah, I can talk about, if you want, how we came up with our staffing model and what that looks like too, if you'd like.
Sure. Go for it.
So the chief had a great idea to utilize the people let me back up just a little bit. We looked at a bunch of different models and how people are doing it. One thing that I'll tell your viewers is that everyone has, the same concept, but everyone does it a little bit different. We all have different technology stacks. We all have kind of different ways of staffing, whether it's sworn, professional staff, or a mix of the two. Our chief came up with the idea of adding 4 positions to our dispatch room, so actually dispatchers. And then we came up with basically a specialized assignment out of dispatch, where we pay them extra money, and we go in and we do interviews the whole 9 yards, and we pick the best tactical dispatchers to move from there into the real-time intelligence center room. And it's been really, really just kind of a key thing to really have us gain quick momentum, allow the culture to accept the real-time intelligence center, and for people to really just buy off on it and want to be a part of it, because they're listening to people that they've heard on the radio for years, people that they already trust. And so now those folks are just in a different position, and now they just have they're unencumbered by 911 calls and radio dispatching, but they're able to now do all that work and then get on the radio quickly and feed that information. So that's our model. We are eventually going to, when we just got this approved, a whole class spec of real-time intelligence folks that are going to be in there. One's going to be an operator, one's going to be a specialist, and one's going to be a supervisor. Those are the different classes. And eventually what we're going to do is move those folks that are kind of on a specialized assignment into these permanent positions there. But I think we'll probably always use dispatch as kind of our feeding ground of, they get good training in there. They're a known quantity to us, and we can move them into this real-time space.
Yeah, that's really smart. That's really well thought out. And why not grab those unsung heroes? And I always say, I repeat, the best army is a volunteer army. So if you've got somebody who wants to do it and you have an interview process, I think that's just, so smart.
Yeah.
To not just take the person who wants the raise or wants the weekends off, but somebody who's really invested and had a track record of that kind of performance. Really good work.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what, they absolutely love it in there. Like, they are so motivated and fired up to come to work and do this job. It's amazing. It's inspiring to see. So
yeah, that's great. Hey, I want to talk more about how it's broken down in the RTIC and the training aspects of it. what happens when things get stressful in there.
Mhm.
But first, I'd like to take a moment and thank our sponsor. Peregrine's real-time decision and operations management platform empowers law enforcement agencies with the data they need to solve their hardest problems and do their best work. Through advanced data integration technology, Peregrine maximizes the impact of your real-time crime center by centralizing and organizing historical and real-time data, making it readily accessible and actionable in the moments that matter most. Visit peregrine.io to learn how your organization can get started. That's peregrine.io. And we're back, and I'm speaking with Lieutenant Sean Riley from the Glendale Police Department in Southern California. We're talking about the Real-Time Intelligence Center there. And Sean, we're talking about personnel, and it's broken down. You've got a couple of non-sworn, really veteran and savvy dispatchers, emergency dispatchers in there. What about the cops? Are they volunteers as well, or limited duty? How's that breaking down?
Yeah, so good point. I did not touch on that. So part of our model is, we have this kind of adjoining supervisor's room, which has a full console, basically the same thing that our real-time intelligence center operators have. Plus, we have the ability to stream anything that's in the video wall in the actual main room into this conference room as well. And our idea is to have sworn personnel up there, whether it's myself or a watch sergeant. So we're getting our watch sergeant up there quite a bit. And when they're not up there, what our operators do is they send the feeds from our real-time intelligence center down 2 floors to where our watch sergeants and our watch commanders normally sit, to give them that real-time perspective so they can see what's going on, monitor pursuits, allocate resources appropriately. And so that's kind of our mixed model right now. We see, at least moving forward for now, there will be always room for us, probably a sworn manager right now to oversee the room, and that, sworn supervisory oversight up there. So that's kind of our mix now. In fact, fairly recently with the wildfires that recently hit Southern California, we stood up our Department Operations Center out of that room that adjoined the Real-Time Intelligence Center. And boy, that was a game changer for us. We've always kind of ad hoc different rooms to kind of support department operations centers, to talk back and forth to the EOC. But now we had a room that had so much more perspective, so much more, the ability to see things happening in real time and make decisions, and have the technology right at our hands. So we ran that out of there when we were, sending Area C resources out to Pasadena and LA and all these other places to help with the fires, and doing our own evacuations and things. And it really became instrumental to be able to work side by side with our real-time intelligence center operators and having the sworn personnel up there working out of that room. It was great.
Yeah, well, you stole a little bit of my thunder. I was going to ask you if they're trained in the ICS positions of operations, plans, intelligence, all of that. Can they switch to those roles to manage? You have an incident commander in the RTIC who says, "Okay, we're now the Department Operations Center."
I don't have any plans at this point to train our real-time intelligence center operators in that capacity, but they're there to support us. They're a branch of us when we're working out of that conference room. So that's kind of how I see that relationship.
Okay. All right. So, what kind of training is involved? Are these analysts? Can you use them to break down statistics so that, I mean, I think we've had a real problem with data over the last now 5 or 10 years, and we've got all these systems. Why can't we capture the data to just plug right into these reports to the FBI, UCR, or NIBRS so that our data collection, if we have a homicide, that is sent up to the state? Are you using anything to capture the data?
Yeah, so that's again where Peregrine's filling that hole for us. They are very, very solid in the crime analytics side of the world, and bringing all that stuff together, whether it's simple reports or reporting out. So we're using that for all of that now. And again, I can't tell you how easy it is and how refreshing it is to have one place to go to get our data, and the data is clean and the data is good and it's accurate, versus, previously we would go to 3 different places and get 3 different answers for data that we're looking at, to either report to, whether it's, executive staff reporting to, city council and other things, or, like you say, reporting the crime statistics, which is a huge piece of it as well.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, sorry.
No, finish.
Okay, so I was going to say is, and just to get into the training piece of it, one of the things I did not touch on is, one of the other pieces to our room is we have investigative analysts that are attached to our criminal investigations bureau. So how it looks in our department, we have our investigative services division, and branched off from there is our criminal investigations bureau, and then our special investigations bureau. I work in the special investigations bureau, and the Arctic is one of my job duties. But in criminal investigations bureau, we have investigative analysts, and we have 2 of them that are really, really sharp. And so they work out of the real-time intelligence center a lot, and they support and work almost in a symbiotic relationship with our operators up there. So sometimes we only have one real-time intelligence operator working, I'll have an investigative analyst up there, and the operator is doing the, manipulating of the cameras, talking on the radio, while the investigative analyst is pulling up the stuff and feeding that information to get put out to the officers in real time. So that's the other piece of kind of how we're putting it all together. So I say that all to say that there is niche work now being done by these investigative analysts they're essentially detectives, professional staff detectives. They're very skilled in what they do, researching video, using the LPR data and all these things. But the crime analyst side of the world is like, Peregrine's doing most of that for us now. And I don't see us ever hiring another just crime analyst, because we're so easily getting that out of Peregrine. So we're focusing more on having investigative analysts, people that can support our detectives a little more, and then pull the stuff out of Peregrine when they need to report back crime stats and things.
Yeah. Well, nice. I mean, once you get that all smoothed out, yeah, it should be easy sailing. Knock wood.
Yeah, knock on wood.
All right. So you gave us a great example of that reluctant officer in technology use who was pretty much evangelized into a true believer once it worked for him at a scene, a domestic violence scene where, you had a reluctant victim witness. Give us another example. I was thinking in Glendale, you've got this big retail shopping center. Say it's 11 p.m., all the stores are closed, but then you get reports of a street takeover, either in the biggest intersection there or in the parking lot. You've got a couple of hundred observers, 3 or 4 cars tearing up the roadway, maybe some injuries, gunshots. How would the RTIC be involved in that?
Yeah, so I'll kind of go back and start with, like, our number one goal with the Real-Time Intelligence Center is to stop this stuff before it happens, right? Is to identify groups of people and cars moving to the city that don't belong, that are there for the wrong reasons, utilizing our LPR technology and hot lists and things that will allow us to, see that cars are flagged as potentially being related to organized retail crime or, street takeover type things. And so using that technology to stop that stuff before it starts is really where our goal is. But let's say something did get through, right? And it does happen, and all of a sudden we've got that. The goal of the operators then is to really utilize those cameras and that technology to allow our sworn supervisors to come up into that room and make real-time calls about how we're allocating our resources, where we're directing people to go, how we're using the cameras to collect evidence and things for later prosecutions. So that's how we would support that. And again, then, also being able to help fire direct if there are injuries and things, and where to go, where to stage, and where's appropriate, gives them that extra set of eyes.
Yeah, awesome. And robbery. Say you got a car, one of those cars smashes through the front of one of the big retail shops, and you got 30, 40 people just looting, running out with arms full of stuff, getting into vehicles, running away from the scene. Maybe you have a drone up in the air. Take it away.
Yeah, so same thing. We would expect, and we do expect our supervisors to come up into the room, whether that's the watch sergeant or watch commander or both, and be up there as our real-time intelligence center operators are manipulating the cameras and giving them the vantage points to allow them to, direct resources in, identifying folks, putting things in, and, then allowing, again, our decision makers the ability to reach out to our neighboring agencies, and ask for more help if we need more help, sending more additional resources, things like that. That's how that mainly plays out. And I'll give you a short example. We had a little bit of that start, COVID times, right? We definitely had some challenges. And so you will definitely see, we watch as our operators spend a lot of time really monitoring our downtown areas around certain times, really monitoring traffic and crowds, and really trying to pick up any of those potential issues of, things that just don't look right. And they've been around long enough to say, you know what, this doesn't look right. We've got 2 or 3 cars following each other, heading into our major mall. All right, let's send some resources over there to see what they're up to. So doing things like that. A quick story, not nearly as exciting as the one you laid out for me, but similar. We did have, out of the Glendale Galleria, we had a retail theft. Had a vehicle description. I think there was 4 or 5 people involved in it in the car. They were leaving the area. As our real-time intelligence center operators were pulling that up, units are being dispatched and they're responding. One of our operators saw the vehicle come out, identified it, come out of the structure, make a left onto one of our major thoroughfares, and then make a quick left on a minor street. And as officers were pulling up, the real-time intelligence center operator told me, he goes, I had just enough time to get on the radio and say, left, 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 turn left right now. So they turned left, and they ended up getting the car, getting everyone in custody. And that's a case that probably would not have been solved, or been solved with a lot of investigative legwork and, a lot of different staff hours involved with reviewing video and follow-up and different things like that. So allowing that to happen quickly, getting somebody in custody, and, dusting ourselves off and being done with it without, hours and hours of follow-up is just, part of what this the center has been able to do for us. And later, the officers were telling the operators in the Arctic that, man, if you wouldn't have told us to turn left, we were actually going right. They would have never gotten the car for that day, So
Yeah, that's great. That's a
yeah.
great story. Well, your priorities are straight. They're in line with Sir Robert Peel, 1892, who said that prevention rather than arrest was the #1 goal of police. So you're doing that. But if, things happen, you've got the ability to make that arrest afterwards. So that's awesome too. I want to wrap up. Thanks so much for your time. But what other city departments, agencies are involved in the Real-Time Information Center? You've got fire, EMS, maybe public works, parks. Who else can tap into or maybe has a seat there at your Arctic? Or are there future plans to involve any of those other agencies?
Yeah. So what I'll start with, in telling your viewers that, one of the biggest things that we learned, coming into this as we were doing our research, and then obviously as we're building the center, was very early to get public works, your IT staff, all in the same room and all on the same page. And we were very fortunate to have a chief that had support from city council and a city manager, and then able to get all the directors of those big departments to be behind this big push. And so that allowed us to be able to move really quickly, be able to get things actually done. Because as you know, in any large organization, it's difficult. There's a lot of competing priorities. And so to know that this was a priority for the city and the police department to get done really helped us get it done in a record amount of time. And we stood this thing up in 10 months from basically idea to our room was done, which is just lightning speed. So that is huge, doing that piece of it. The other piece is, I see real synergy with police departments and fire departments moving into the future. We're already starting to do things and work with them. It's funny because we've had conversations. They've all come over and toured it. They love it. And we're already, I'll give you another quick example. And we had this literally day one the Arctic was open. We had a vehicle into a gas pump at a gas station, right? The pump's knocked over. They're sending, 5 fire engines and, 10 police cars, and it's just this massive amount of resources converging on this incident. And I go, God, I think we have a camera there. And so one of our operators pulled it up, and sure enough, we had a camera pointed right at this gas station. Couldn't have been better. And it was, the pump was laid over a little bit, but everyone was walking around. There's no fire. There's no major emergency. And so we were able to get on the air and be like, okay, this is what's going on. There's no fire. No one's really hurt. Send one fire apparatus and paramedic. Send one motor officer. Cancel everybody else. So the allocation of resources isn't just on the police side, it'll be on the fire side as well. And they see that. And so eventually we're getting our legs and we're getting better and better at all this stuff. And so as the staffing model builds up in there and I get even more staff, the goal will be to, not only monitor police department frequency, but our Vertigo fire frequency, and be able to get on the radio and let the fire department know what they're responding to. So that they can at least, get an idea of what kind of resources they're sending to it, and maybe slow things down or send more resources when it's appropriate.
Yeah, no, it's great to see. I mean, after 9/11, we had the threat assessment centers. I toured the one at LAPD right after 9/11, and we got a lot of grants and resources. We stood one up in San Francisco, but then, it's been 25 years. So we sort of, go back to, okay, maybe we don't need to staff that up so much. I think the RTICs, the real-time information centers, the real-time crime centers, they are here to stay. We've got so much great technology. We've got to tie them in together. If we're really going to talk about, the shared 2 acronyms there are real time. So we got to have somebody there to monitor. We've got to have somebody to act on the actionable intelligence that we're getting.
Yep.
Hey, so Sean Riley, commander of the Real-Time Intelligence Center at Glendale PD. Thanks so much for your time. Great insight. And I know you and I are going to be talking again in the future. We're going to talk about threat assessments, and there's a value there that we sort of put back into the back cabinet that the way things are today, we got to take another look at how we're doing threat assessments and using real intelligence. Hey, thanks for your time today.
You're welcome, Jim. Nice talking to you.
All right. Hey, listeners, viewers, hope you enjoyed today's segment. Lieutenant Sean Riley, there's some information for him in the show notes down below. Let me know what you think. Drop me a line at policingmatters@policeone.com. policingmatters@policeone.com. And let me know what you think. And if you have a suggestion for another show, let me know. All right. Hey, stay safe, everyone. Thanks so much for checking in, viewing, listening. And I hope to talk to you again real soon. Take good care.